Hey y'all, I hope that everyone is warm, safe, taking moments for joy as well as for grief. So I'm looking ahead for the astrology of this week and February because I want to start writing the cosmic current again and doing monthly reports. And I know that I've talked about prediction and kind of almost being torn a little bit on how useful it is to share information about the future, right? Now, with my clients and when I receive information, it is very, very clear when something is for me to prompt me to other information versus what is to share. So I'm not talking about that, but that does have me reflecting on, how I show up as a diviner. I remember a conversation that I was having with someone about doing divination for friends and, saying, no, I don't want to do that because what they're going to do with the information. And they said, that's not for you to decide. And I'm like, damn, they're right. It ain't my choice. But not only that, when I think about the way that, I've been practicing mundane astrology and the way that messages have been coming to me when I ain't been asking about the especially in regards to this administration, why I haven't been sharing. And that is just me not wanting to fearmonger, not wanting to honestly veer too far off course from the comfortable part of pleasure work. It is very uncomfortable, but that's a story for another day. And to be honest, not wanting to be wrong, my own ego, not wanting to make a prediction, not wanting to share what I received through whatever, not wanting to read a chart and it be inaccurate, my ego. But on my altar, I have Octavia Butler's A Few Rules for Predicting the Future. And in it, she speaks to, the point of prediction, of, offering alternatives so that we can maintain hope, so that we can prepare. Who you could tell I was struggling to remember that quote. So I posted it on the story before with a link to the essay, which is absolutely worth a read, and included the portion about history within that as well, because that's what this is all about. And so I got to step outside of my own ego and share, because who knows what someone will do with the information, If I get it, I share it, and then we go from there, Anywho, I do see some stuff coming, but for accuracy, I need to consult with the political analyst in my house to provide some more context to it. I'm looking at it generally, but also I do look at the transits up against the U.S. Sibley chart. I actually think it's Sybil, and none of my astrology friends have corrected me. But once I say a word wrong, that's the word anyways, so it doesn't matter. But yes, I'm going to try to be more intentional about sharing any predictions that I see when I am looking at astrology, and the messages that's where I really be coming in, with the details, because my goodness. Yeah, so and actually be intentional about asking for information as well. I'm going to challenge myself to do so. All right, have a good Sunday. Okay, so I started to share about Neptune in Aries, which is happening this week. Neptune will be moving into the sign of Aries. And then I erased it because my political analyst came and we discussed some possibilities. And because it was getting into the weeds, and I want to make sure, since I'm using this software, that I had the accurate dates and wasn't giving misinformation. So I still want to share a little bit, but with giving the disclaimer of like, verify, do your own research. Just don't take anything, especially in this day and age. Just don't take anything you hear some random diviner saying on the internet, right? But it's also to kind of give a process, to show the process of what this kind of astrological research looks like. In that video that I deleted, I mentioned that astrology is an archive, right? It's dates that happened and you're going and comparing it. It's really just finding the connection, right? So what happened here? It's like, oh, Neptune is going into Aries. It will be at 0 degrees of Aries. Well, I'm looking at this U.S. chart. The 4th house cusp is about 1 degree and some change. That means Neptune is going to go into the 4th house of the U.S. chart this year at some point in time. What happened last time that Neptune went into the 4th house of the U.S. chart? 1861. Okay, y'all. This is one ingress. This is one piece of evidence. This is one thing to look at, just one factor. It doesn't matter what branch of astrology that it is. You do not use one thing as evidence when making a prediction or we're going to say something that could potentially be an outcome. Now, I'm going to share with the Neptune in Aries, and there are a whole bunch of other indicators that support this. But this is just one, and I'm just sharing more about like what the process looks like of how people make predictions using astrology. 1861, the formation of the Confederacy, the initiation of the Civil War. Okay, and so then I'm like, all right, we had some Neptune transits last year in 2025 that would give some insights into things we could expect. Now, remember, y'all, I'm just sharing the process of what I'm looking at, right? I'm going to get together a list of mundane astrologers that I love and trust because this is like they've been doing this work for years. So maybe a lot, oh, Neptune is going into the 4th house. Like, yeah, girl, everybody knew that because this is what we do. So I am just sharing because I should have came at y'all with some dates and everything, but just want to share the process. Anywho, we got a preview of Neptune in Aries back in April, I believe, April and September. Now, I didn't check if it went all the way into our 4th house, but we are getting those themes, right? Especially with it being so close to the cusp, we get those themes coming in. So I go back and I look, all right, what was happening around that time period? And that's when we started getting the mess with the tariff. So what was it called? Like Liberation Day or Liberation something? Let me see. So then I consult with my in-house political analyst. And I say, hey, these are the transits. This is what it looks like in a general sense. This is what happened the last time we experienced these transits based off of current events, the current political climate, things that have been happening. What do you think that this might look like? What could this be? Does this sound like anything that you're familiar with? The specific question that I asked is, what would a civil war look like? And he said, nothing like it did back in the day. And he doesn't speak like this at all, but here I am translating. And that the first thing that we discussed was Newsom and him going to Davos and speaking against Trump, and a governor going. It's already kind of like an unprecedented thing. And how California was the first state to join like the World Health Organization, and he could see where the more liberal states band together. Of course, he used all the official language, and that be a thing. Now, I'm not going to go into like all the weeds of it. This is something I would like to flesh out more and really do some actual research, but there was a big emphasis on taxation and the state versus federal taxes, huge on the midterm election and honoring those results. voter laws, the legitimacy of laws passed depending on what happens during the midterms and if there's tampering, all of this stuff. I've been seeing a lot of indicators for a market crash. So discussing what that might look like. One thing that was thrown out there is only providing relief to certain states. So lots of things, right? Because then from there, it would go in, well, what are other times within the history of the U.S. that this has happened? And like, let me go look at a chart and see if there are indicators or transits coming up that would connect that we see, or when is the last time in history, and like what typically happens when this planet hits this planet and it hits that, and all of this. I forgot the fourth house in mundane astrology is land, it's infrastructure, it's weather, and it's the people, and it's specifically the people against the people in opposition to the leader or the power that be.